Fans who grew up playing the first series of Pokémon games on Nintendo's Game Boy may remember the spooky setting of Lavender Town, home to the 7-story Pokémon Tower filled with the tombstones of deceased Pokémon. The tower is a place where players can encounter Spectrum-type Pokémon as well as Ground-type Pokémon with a Marowak to be precise. A Pokémon that is not a ghost but has its own very dark history. The whole town exudes a sinister atmosphere thanks to its high-pitched chiptune music. Yes, I didn't know that expression, I'm not going to pretend I did, I found the information on internet. But apparently soothing, albeit discordant music, behind which lies a mystery far more terrifying than you might suspect. The Lavender Town Syndrome is perhaps the most terrifying popular story surrounding Pokémon, and is said to relate to a real, documented event. Let's take a look at what Pokémon has been trying to hide from us for decades. In 1995, Game Freak released its first Pokémon video game, the famous red and green versions. According to an urban legend, the music played at the entrance to Lavender Town in the green and red versions of Pokémon caused the suicide of, get this, around 100 children. This music was very different from that heard later in other versions, such as red and blue. Let me immerse you in this original Japanese version of what children of the time heard. I've shortened the song a bit for the video, but you can find it on this YouTuber's video. According to the story, children under the age of 12 began hearing voices and whisperers telling them to do things. They suffered from migraines, insomnia, and for some even self-mutilation, because the voice in the Lavender Town song were telling them to do so. But what is most alarming is that during this period there was a strange and abnormal increase in the suicide rate among minors. On studying the cases, the specialists realized that there was a common factor. They had all played Pokémon. According to the specialists' analysis, children in a certain age group can hear certain sounds that would have set them off completely. But how is it possible? Investigation into each of the deaths revealed a common circumstance that points to the Pokémon video game as the main culprit. In each of the cases, the parents of the deceased children stated that their children played Pokémon day and night and had become addicted to their consoles. This terrifying melody appears in the darkest setting in the whole game, where the Pokémon Symmetry is located. The relationship first with Death for a child's game were off to a good start, but let's continue. This map is plagued by ghosts and the context of other legends just as appropriate for children, as we'll see. For example, the story of Marowak's mother. Let's stop there just for a moment, because the Pokémon's name is literally, at least for the French version, Bone to Kill. So we are a long way from the world of cuddly toys. But for those of you who don't know its history, let me give you a brief introduction. Let's focus on Cubone, the first level of this Pokémon before it transformed into Marowak. Its first appearance in the game is also in Lavender, where we find poor little Cubone in this creepy town, where you can hear it sobbing behind its helmet. You see what the problem is? He wears a skull as a helmet and uses a bone to fight. But not just any bone. He uses his mother's bone, which she sacrificed for him. All of a sudden, Pokémon stories are a lot less glamorous when you consider that the main characters involved are children under the age of 12. Getting back to the main story, once the cartridge had been analyzed, the police realized that the last town where the children had played the game was in this very village. After analysis, they noticed something strange about the background music. The song contained moments of high intensity in tones that could only be heard by the children, a bit like ultrasounds. These shrill, oppressive sounds caused headaches that turned into severe migraines, followed by insomnia and irritability. Despite this crude symptomology, the addiction to this video game never stopped, but we'll come back to that later. Let's take a look at the second legend linked to this city. As well as the scary music, the game's usual but varied bugs contributed to the creation of his second legend, such as a ghost animation that could be found inside the tower, which showed faces and corpses, yes, nothing less. In the first edition of the game, or Japanese version, a code for a Pokémon identified by the serial number 731 was hidden in the game. The Pokémon could only be found in two places. First, by searching in the grass in exactly the same area as marked. There was a total certainty that Pokémon 731 would be found. Was this 731 a mistake in the game code, or had it been put there on purpose by the programmers? But if so, why? Second, the other way to find it was to use the missing no. The missing no trick consisted of a series of steps. How to get the old man to teach you how to catch Pokémon and so on. The dialogues with the old man were transferred to the game's memory, which determined which Pokémon would appear. For example, on the island of Kamwa, no specific Pokémon had been programmed, but after having had the dialogue with the man, you could obtain the Pokémon corresponding to the first three values of your name on the island. If no Pokémon matched this requirement, the missing no appeared, and if your name in the game was GCA, you could meet Pokémon 731. This creature was strange. It used a ghost sprite combined with some flickering, in which a series of low-quality images were emitted. One of these images resembled a man standing on a board with an object, probably a corpse, that was difficult to identify. He has an unknown object in his hands and a surgical mask on his lips, hence perhaps the theory of the image of a body in the animation. The image of a building in low resolution with translucent details that are difficult to make out. Another possible scenario, the strangest of all, is the image of the Japanese imperial flag with two kanji symbolizing the emperor. If you try to capture the Pokémon 731, the game freezes. After restarting the game, the title screen appeared modified and emitted static as well as a tone 10 times faster. What is the purpose of this Pokémon? What is the significance of the number 731? And has the binaural tone of the village of Lavender been consciously inserted into the game? Coming back to the sound, the melody aspects of tonal intensity that only prepubescent children can hear. The combination of strident and overwhelming sounds causes violent headaches, even migraines, accompanied by insomnia. The next condition is irritability, accompanied by insomnia, gambling addiction, and in many cases, nosebleeds. Finally, those affected suffered from nausea and vomiting, as well as severe depression. As you might expect, this is not typical for children of this age, for those who have any doubts about it. It is this loss of attachment to life and this malaise that has driven many children to suicide. Those who did commit suicide generally did so by hanging or jumping from a height. Those who did not act irrationally were left with mental scars and had to seek specialist help. The so-called original melody is said to contain binaural beats, which can have psychological effects on the listener. In fact, many people today claim to experience headaches after listening the original version. Alerted by these cases, Game Freak corrected the melody. thus preventing subsequent versions released in Europe and the United States from containing the dangerous song. Game Freak sources have assured us that the new song is almost identical to the original. Although the sound differs from game to game, this mass hysteria was caused by the first Pokémon game released. The programmers had to change the village theme music to a lower frequency, so that children were no longer affected by it. Although some tried to argue that the high frequencies could not be heard through the Game Boy speaker system and could only be heard if headphones were used. In 2010, a video surfaced in which a special software was used to analyze the audio of the music. During playback, the software created images towards the end of the Pokémon Unknown audio. This video caused controversy as Unknown only appeared in Generation 2, Silver, Gold and Crystal games. Here's the video from Predator, the YouTuber who shot it. I have shortened a bit to show the most interesting part. All this to add even more strangeness to the whole story of the glitches and legends behind the history of Pokémon. What do you think of these mysteries, and have you seen any others? For my part, I hadn't experienced any myself in the past, but I really enjoyed working on this video. As always, thank you for following me, and I'll see you next Friday on this same channel. Bye bye!